should just hand it straight to Chris, and then what we'll do today is a little different than usual. Usually we do the Q&A first. We're going to do that second. So hold your questions, get a piece of paper and a pen, unless you prefer to type. And Chris, thanks so much for being back. We're going to do ethical will, and I'll just hand it right over to you. You don't need any more introductions than you already have.
Great. Misha, thank you so much. And Janet, thank you. And Alyssa, thank you. And I'm so delighted to be here with all of you. So I'm going to talk about ethical wills, and I'm going to have a handout for you afterwards. So Janet, may I send you that after this afternoon? I'll send you the handout. Would you send it on to everybody, Janet?
Please do.
Great. So I'll have a handout for you. Okay, so I want to start by saying that when COVID started in March of 2020, we remember we were all stuck at home, and one thing I did was to write love letters to the people I cherish. So I wrote one to my wife, Gail, to my 3 daughters, and I went on doing it, and I eventually wrote about 60 letters. These were 6 pages or so long and full of love and affection and what I loved about these people. And I realized, in effect, I was writing an ethical will, because an ethical will is a letter full of love and affection. I'll tell you more about them, to your loved ones, and that's what I did. And I was very pleased to do it, because when you on your deathbed, you want to feel that your life is complete. That'll give you more peace if you feel your life is complete, and your life will feel more completed if you have written to your loved ones why they are important to you. Okay, so an ethical will grew out of a Jewish custom that originated many centuries ago. And older Jewish parents wrote letters that expressed their love and shared their wisdom and advice. They highlighted life lessons and described the lives they hoped their children might lead. And these letters came to be known as ethical wills. They're also called legacy letters. And writing one is a profoundly satisfying experience, because it helps to preserve your memory and legacy, and invariably gives you, the author, a fulfilling sense of completion and peace. Now, what I want to do today is help you get started on writing an ethical letter. Now, some of you may already have written one, which is great, but so I want you to have a piece of paper and pencil handy, as Misha indicated, because as I'm talking over the next 20 minutes, I encourage you to jot down ideas that come into your head about what you might write. To write down phrases and letters and words and whatever. And what you'll have then is a page of notes that can help you. Then you'll be able to write, based on those notes, an ethical will of this letter, a love letter to those who are precious to you in your life. So I'm going to talk now about how to write one, how to write one. And some of you may be saying to yourselves, "Well, I'm not a writer. I'm not a writer. I can't write a letter like that. I don't know where to start." So let me give you an example of an ethical will. Here it is. Imagine a father talking to their son, and this is what they might write down. And this is an ethical will. "My darling son, you are so precious to me. I know in my life I have rarely said that to you, and I apologize for not being more expressive, but I want you to know you mean the world to me. Thank you for being part of my life. I will love you forever. Love, Dad." Now that is a 3 or 4 line ethical will. It's a love letter. Now there's more we can put into that letter, which I will talk about. But that, I just want you to know, it doesn't have to be sort of complicated or overwhelming. It can be very simple. And you can imagine a great granddaughter in the year 2115 finding that letter and saying, reading it, the handwritten letter, and reading it and saying, look at this amazing letter that my great grandfather wrote to his son back in the year 2025. So these ethical wills become heirlooms. They become incredibly precious and treasured, you know? Okay, so um, uh, let's let's start quickly by talking about who it should be addressed to. I mean, this could be anybody. This could be obviously children, grandchildren, obviously, but it could also be siblings or nieces and nephews, or a spouse or a partner or friends or neighbors. Don't worry, don't get hung up too much about that for the minute. You can think about it later. So for now, as you're thinking about it, as you're thinking about writing an ethical will, if you are, I hope you are, then just think about pick somebody that you can identify. And if you have children, that's obvious then, you know. Okay, so one idea, one idea in writing an ethical will um, is to say how much you love the person you're writing to and how much they mean to you. Now, again, let me say as I'm talking, jot down notes that occur to you, not necessarily what I'm saying, but things that occur to you that you would like to put in your ethical will. So, as I say, the most obvious thing to say to somebody is, "I love you." I love you and you mean the world to me. And then perhaps you want to thank them and tell them how grateful you are. Perhaps you want to tell them in this ethical will, this legacy letter, perhaps you want to tell them what is important to you so they know what's important to you. Another idea is what you have learned from life, some life lessons. Obviously, in your life, as all of us go through struggles and setbacks and disappointments and occasionally some victories, perhaps. And what have we learned from these experiences, you know? And you might want to share some in your ethical will. You might want to share some stories from your life that mean a lot to you and you hope will mean a lot to them. Stories you don't want to lose when you die. Stories you want to have the family remember. And you might want to discuss some family history. It's amazing how little, how how many people don't know much about their family histories, what their grandparents and great parents and great grandparents did and where they came from. So you might want to put in your ethical will something about your grandparents, where they came from, what values drove their lives, some of the incredible experiences coming over from Russia, emigrating in the late part of the 20th century, things like that, you know, whatever it is. Now it's 2:12. I am going to stop now for 30 seconds, to give you a chance to empty your mind in writing, to put in to jot down notes. We're brainstorming to jot down notes that have occurred to you. I just want to give you a 30-second break of silence so you can jot down some notes of things that are occurring to you from what I've been saying so far. So please, 30 seconds of silence. Write all you can. You're writing down ideas that might go into your ethical will. Okay, go. 30 seconds. Okay, thanks everybody. All right, let me have your attention back, please. Okay, now let's think about how you might start your ethical will. Because that's often people get stuck. Well, how do I start the letter? How do I begin the letter, you know? So one idea is to start the letter by describing what you are trying to do. what you are trying to do and why it matters to you. So you might say, my darling daughter, I'm writing this letter because I want you to know my deepest feelings in my heart, or something like that. Yeah. Okay. So um, you might want to talk about in your ethical will your values. It's funny how infrequently we talk about something so foundational as the values that govern and direct our lives. But you might want to talk about, you might want to talk about tolerance, or empathy, or enthusiasm, or kindness, or the importance of honesty, of service, of giving, of living a life of giving, or taking on responsibility, or compassion, or creativity. How important it is to be creative and full of love and optimism, or you might have talked about the value of perseverance and tenacity, of humor, the importance of having a sense of humor, patience, generosity, self-discipline, or courage, so foundational courage. So I'm just throwing out some values. You might want to pick 4 or 5 values that mean a lot to you and you hope will mean a lot to the readers of your ethical will. um, is there, I'm just brainstorming, we're just brainstorming now what could go into your ethical will. Is there anything about your family history you want to convey? Perhaps you want to include some of the moral principles your mum and dad held dear and that you also think are important. Is there anything is there anything you want to apologize for or express regret about? Perhaps you want to, are there any misunderstandings you want to clear up? Do you need to ask for forgiveness for something? I'll never forget my father, in his early 80s, he died at 85. In his early 80s, he was a very strict martinet to us 4 boys. I was the youngest, 4 boys, as we were growing up, very strict physical punishments and so on. And one day in his early 80s, he was an old man, and he suddenly, I wasn't there, sent to my brother Tim, he blurted out, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I was so strict with you boys. I was so strict with you boys. He was apologizing, and it meant so much. Of course, he didn't write an he did not write an ethical will, but if he had and put that in an ethical will, do you imagine how much that would have meant to us? But the fact that he even said it was great and good for him. So now, you brainstorm. We're continuing to brainstorm. Think about your audience. Think about who you're writing to. What do you love and treasure about them? In what ways do you cherish them? What difference have they made to your life? What specifically do you want to thank them for? It's one thing to say thank you for all you've done. That's very nice, but much better to say thank you for what you did back in 2002 when I was getting divorced. You came and spent an evening with me and gave me great. I mean, specificity when you express gratitude really matters. Okay. Think about, and we're still brainstorming what might go into your ethical will. So keep writing notes as things occur to you. Think about what gives meaning and purpose to your life. What activities do you enjoy that make you feel that life is worth living? Is there anything you'd like to include about that in your ethical will, your legacy letter? What do you value? We've talked about values, but what motivates you and gives you a sense of fulfillment? Gardening, growing plants, painting, writing poetry, playing with grandchildren, nurturing small kids, whatever it is, running for public office, whatever, creating a new non-profit. I mean, what things have given your life meaning, and you might want to talk about that a little about. Do you have, here's another thing you might want to put in your ethical will. Do you have a life philosophy? Like Stoicism, that is about admitting there are many things that we cannot control, like the weather, like other people's behavior. So let's not get so anxious about them when stressed about. Let's instead focus on what we can control. Are there life philosophies that you want to share with the readers of your ethical will? For example, don't devote yourselves to trying to beat other people. Compete against yourself. Try and make each day a little better than your day before. Don't worry what other people are doing. Just focus on what you can do and in constantly daily improvement, things like that. The sort of philosophies that have helped you in your life and you'd like to pass on. And what has helped you overcome setbacks and disappointments. By the way, you'll notice I'm coming back. I'm deliberately doing this. I've already commented some of these things, but I'm going round because every time I want us to go another layer deeper. So I'm talking. You'll hear me say things 2 or 3 times deliberately because I'm coming back to them again and again because they are so important. Here's another idea. What do you know to be true? What do you know to be true? What wisdom would you like to impart? Would you like to put into this ethical will, this legacy letter? Perhaps about marriage or friendship or the true meaning of success, that success isn't having a fancy house, a big car, money in the bank. That is so ultimately trivial. And that what really matters is what do you do for other people, how kind you are, how generous you are, how you devote your life to helping other people and so on. That's what really matters. You might want to talk a little about the true meaning of success, or you might want to how to create a happy family, having having family meetings every week to discuss things and so on, how to have a happy family. Now, as I sort of continue to brainstorm, is there a quotation or a poem or a profound joke, a joke that reveals wisdom, a profound joke that reflects your views of what constitutes a foundational truth that you want to include in your ethical will? Are there any experiences you've had in your life when you feel you are at your best and you want those reading your ethical will to know about them? And as I've said before, are there stories from your life that capture a life lesson that you want to pass on to your loved ones? Um, so after brainstorming, you have these ideas, and I encourage you tonight to write if you want to. I encourage you tonight. This is your homework from this class. I encourage you tonight to write an ethical will. Just draft one up. And by the way, my email, Janet, would you put my email in the chat, please? Christopher.n.palmer@gmail.com. I invite you to send me your draft of your ethical work. If you want help with it, I'll be delighted to review it and give you comments to help you strengthen it. So feel free, Christopher.n.palmer@gmail.com. Please, Janet, put that in the chat for everybody. And so feel free to send me a draft of if you'd like my help in making it stronger. So I encourage you to draft an ethical will. It can be very rough. Very rough. It doesn't matter. The quality of the writing doesn't matter. Don't worry if there are grammatical errors and spelling errors. None of that matters. The only thing that matters is you talk from your heart. You reveal what's deep in your heart. And if even at this point you may still feel stuck, you may still feel, I just can't do this, I don't know where to start. It doesn't have to be long. It doesn't have to be 6 pages. It can be just 2 or 3 lines. And I think if you start it, then that'll help you to continue going. So I want to give you 30 seconds. It's 2:22. I want to give you 30 seconds of silence, and then I will finish up. Oh, Sheila has a clock. Sheila, hold on to your question, Sheila. Don't forget it, please. Note it down. I'll come to you in 1 second. I'll give you 30 seconds of silence to write all you can. Just get everything out of your head, put it on paper, all the ideas you have. 30 seconds of silence to write as much as you can. Go. Okay, so Jennifer, let me first, Sheila, I'll come to you one second. Let me just answer Jennifer's question in the chat. Some questions. One, Jennifer Lyman says, once you start, what about the fear of leaving out someone who should also receive such a letter? That's a good question. I'm hearing my voice echoing for some reason. That's a good question, Jennifer. So, um, uh, a lot of people just write one ethical will, one legacy letter, and it goes to whoever wants to read it. Um, and so, yeah, it's a worry. If you write individual letters, there is a worry about missing somebody out, and so I don't know what to say about that, except keep records, and if you suddenly think of someone, and of course, friends come in and out of your life. If a friend now who may not be close friend may become a close friend, and you may want to do a letter to them. So for example, many friends who've been different in different ways. Good. It's a very good question. I love that question, Jennifer. And it's just it's just about being conscientious about thinking who matters to you. Number two, Jennifer has how to avoid repeating so that it becomes kind of rote in part. Well, you will repeat yourself to different people saying the same types of things. I love you. You mean a lot to me. It doesn't matter. I think the important thing is to be completely authentic, completely genuine. I mean, just talk from the heart, have no artifice or duplicity here. Those things are completely foreign to what I'm talking about. Just want to, and if you, that doesn't matter repeating. If you're talking from the heart, fine to repeat the same thing. Randy Bos. Oh, well, sorry, Sheila. Forgive me, Sheila. Your question, please. Go ahead.
Can you hear me?
I know.
Can you hear me?
No. Talk louder.
Hear me now? Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can. Keep
Okay,
keep
good.
your comment. It's 2:25, so please keep your comment pithy and succinct. Go ahead.
Okay, just want to ask, do you keep these letters for after you die and people open after?
Okay,
Or
so Sheila, good question. So you
hey,
can do that.
wait a
You
minute. Some of this good information seems like it should be given to people while they're still
Right.
alive.
So let me address that, Sheila. It's a very good question. Thank you for raising it. So some people write these letters, seal them, put them in along with all the other stuff, legal wills and all the rest of it, living wills and so on. But here's what I recommend directly to your question, Sheila, and I got this from Martin Seligman, the famous psychologist. Take the letter, call up the person, tell them that you want to talk to them. Go and see them and have a cup of coffee. Sit down, have letter, and tell them I want to read something to you. Read it slowly. Pause after each sentence. You will find both of you crying. And it's a wonderful experience, a wonderfully bonding experience. So that's what I recommend. I think share it right away. I've written a number of ethical wills. I share them with everybody. And so, yeah, so I would say share them. Thank you. Randy Bosin says, is there anyone who should consider not writing an ethical will? What if you feel you have little or nothing to say of what? Randy, I don't believe you. I just don't. I just think that everybody has something worth saying, even the worst of people, the most selfish, narcissistic, self-centered people surely have something worth saying. So, is there anyone who should consider not writing anything? Well, my quick answer to that is no. I think everybody should, even if you are a person of little self-worth. I think it's worth doing. I think it's actually a character building exercise. Okay, so anybody else have a quick question? Because it's 2:27. So I want to say that writing an ethical um, will means that your loved ones will receive inspiration, comfort, love, and guidance, and as well as gain a clearer window into the unique person you are. Ethical wills are a way to pass on to future generations your hopes for them and what you would like them to know about you. Okay. And in writing your ethical will, you will have done your best to provide future generations with an immeasurably valuable gift, something they may cherish and view with pride, reverence, and gratitude as an enduring example of your spirit and character. It's been great to be with you today. And any final questions? Let me quick look. There's one here from Jennifer. Perhaps, whoops, I can't see it when it's not coming down. Oops. Wait a minute. What's happening here? Okay, I've got it. Okay, Jennifer, perhaps if you feel you have nothing to say, you could try it out just to tell someone how you feel about them or about anything. Yeah, Jennifer, thank you. Thank you for that response to Randy's very interesting point. Randy, thank you very much for that point. It is 2:29. I've got to run to a tennis match. It's been such an honor to be here. Misha, thank you so much for having me. Alyssa, great to see you. And Janet, thank you. Please have me back again soon. I hope I've answered any other question. Did anybody have a quick question before I run? I'm not seeing any. Janet, are you seeing any questions I'm missing?
I don't think so. I
I don't
just
Okay.
think so either.
Jen's
Yeah.
question.
Okay. Well, Misha.
Thank you, Chris.
Oh, it's an honor. It's such an honor to be here. This is just an honor and delight. I'm sorry to be rushing, but thank you all so much for having me. And Misha, see you soon. Thanks so much for having me.
Bye,
Thank
Chris.
you,
Have a good
Chris.
tennis game.
Take care, everybody. Bye-bye
Bye.
now.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
All right, let's switch gears. Let's do, we're gonna do Q&A and updates at the same time. You know the drill. You have a question, put it in the chat or just raise your hand and that will be okay too. There is not a lot of news, although there are some. So I will talk about a couple of different things. So let's do this first. I'm going to just give you a couple of thoughts. There's a news that in Australia, there's been a horrendously high mortality from COVID in the last 6 months. They recorded mortality 5 times higher compared to the flu from last year. It's not very clear why that is the case. Now, the total number of deaths from COVID in Australia is still pretty low. It's 3,600 a year, but they only had 7,000 from flu, and actually the total number of flu infections was higher than total of COVID. So I think it's just why I'm bringing this up. Yeah, well, it's kind of just too early to completely forget about COVID. I don't understand why they have such a big discrepancy, because in the US last year, the mortality from flu and COVID was the same, but it's just basically keeps us on tiptoes. And, I think we have to not forget about this and can't fully relax. So I think that's a big one. The second is that there's more and more data coming out that the prevalence of long COVID worldwide is still hovering around 10%. And that is now very consistent with European statistics. I was expecting in the EU this number would be lower. So what does that mean? Well, it means that COVID, as we talked about this already, COVID does have a specific predisposition for people to develop this longitudinal syndrome. The symptoms are quite broad. And unfortunately, I don't expect that the future is much better, meaning that is another reason why I'm saying we have to keep staying vigilant, because any long-term long COVID symptoms are going to be concerning, even if they're relatively mild, because they will be affecting people for years to come, and this effect will be longitudinal. It's not something you easily get over if you get into that category. I do hope that it will be something that we will learn more about as the time comes, as the time goes forward. And I do hope that, of course, there will be more specific treatments, but for now, there isn't much of anything, as you know. And we will be covering long COVID periodically as time moves forward. So that is topic number 1. And then I have 2 other quick topics, which will all be featured soon in specific videos. So number 1 is the microplastics in the brain causing Alzheimer's disease. I'm sure you've seen this news. There is about 5-fold increase in total toxic load of microplastics in the last 10 years. that is consistent with what has been happening in terms of our total exposure to the plastics, and this was a very solid research. Unfortunately, we don't understand why some people are at much higher risk for accumulating microplastics than others. This is the initial data showing that there is a risk, and only some people have higher risk than others, and it's not really clear what that genetic specific predisposition is. But there is no doubt in my mind, and actually it never has been, that toxins are one of the top contributing to Alzheimer's disease, even though still most of the societies deny this, and despite rapidly accumulating data, no one treats this, right? So there is no drugs, there is no known approaches, and all of the organizations are out there closing their eyes to the topic, which of course we treat people aggressively. Every patient in our program gets assessed for the toxicity, and we detox everybody as soon as we identify any risk. Now, there are no current tests for microplastics as far as I'm aware, although we do have some tests that can be assessed in the urine for byproducts of microplastics. And we do think that that is something that some people should be considering. So that's another topic. So, and then another topic, which actually the video is coming up very soon. That is, actually, I'm going to hold off of that. I want to get the video up first. All right, let's do a questions, because it's, I didn't want to talk for more than 5 minutes about updates. So what are the toxins? Well, toxins are everything that is toxic to us. Mercury is a toxin. Plastics mostly are toxic. Organophosphates are toxic. Now, there's approximately 10,000 toxins that are humanly made. We are going to be at some point covering this in piecemealing. If we had multiple podcasts on this topic, Dr. Ellie Cohen has been on our podcast now twice. Her most recent book, Detoxify, if you're anybody interested, I'm sure you can find it on Amazon. Actually, I'm going to give you a link. And in my opinion, toxicity is the #1 concern of most of us. It should be. If it has not been your concern, you're missing a boat, and you're probably shortening your life quite a lot, because other things you're familiar with, and this you may not be. So let me just get the book up here, because I think it's already out. It's just came out. It's a very new book. I'm going to put in hardcover here for you. Okay, it's still pre-order. It's not out yet, but I'm going to give you a link anyway. And at some point, I'm pretty sure I'm going to see if she would be, when her initial rush subsides, because she's been with this book everywhere, including Dave Osprey and Andrew Weil. So, okay, so just put that in. All right, Shirley, you have a question.
Yes. I just want to say that I'm getting emails where, like, the senior center that I'm affiliated with is shut down due to COVID and a couple other things. So a COVID outbreak, and it's been shut down now for the last month. So this outbreak is still kind of going around. So I just wanted to say that I still think that the initial, what they were telling us to do initially when we were in the pandemic, the distance, the sanitizing of the hands, the mask, and all that stuff still needs to be in play, and maybe is the new normal, because I'm thinking people have just dropped the ball relative to protection. So you're more open to getting these things when you just totally don't do any of the stuff.
Yep, that's exactly the point that I'm making. Thank you, thank you.
Yeah, but another thing I want to say about the toxins, you said that you were doing some testing in your program for toxins for people who had Alzheimer's. So that's what I was trying to say. I know toxins are everywhere, but what specific ones are the ones that
we test for the most common 100 toxins in one test.
You're testing for hundreds.
Yeah. Well, about 100. There's probably a little bit less than that. There's probably about 80 in total.
Let me ask another question real quick. deodorant, antiperspirant.
Make sure they're aluminum free, and make sure they do not have parabens, and they don't have any other concerning chemicals. The best ones would have all organic or all natural ingredients. Baking soda would be really good. But really stay away from aluminum, stay away from parabens. Those are the very basic rules. And the easiest thing, in my opinion, is, if you don't want to keep an eye on the labels, pick a couple of brands that all of their products are biosafe. That would be the sort of the best. You can make your own products. Al is putting something about mixing baking soda with rubbing alcohol. Absolutely, I completely agree. So you can do that, but if you're not interested in sort of making your own stuff, then there are plenty of brands that are pretty safe as a brand, as a whole brand. So
using aluminum-based deodorants for about 20 years, so I have a good brand and all of that. But see, I didn't know whether that was really a thing.
Correct. Nobody did. Nobody knew back 20 years ago. This is relatively old, new, up and coming. And so don't scold yourself for the past. Just do what you can going forward.
Yeah, well, and my friends also stopped the aluminum-based products too. But that was before a lot of the information that's out here now. So, some of this stuff, we didn't know if it was a myth or whether it was something that was real. We haven't switched back, but I just didn't know whether it was a real thing or not. To be concerned, the aluminum in the I think this antiperspirant is what usually has the aluminum in it.
No, they're different ones. So you just again, my easiest suggestion is learn the brands that never use concerning chemicals. That's just easier. You can, even the big brands that use all kinds of stuff often now produce products that are geared towards the sort of toxicity conscious customers, so they would have products that don't have this. But if you're using the brands that they don't use anything concerning, you just never need to worry about this. That's why I sort of recommend it. At some point, if there is an interest, we can probably organize a whole session about this. I'm assuming there could be some interest in that. So I need to do a little bit of a research to kind of tell you more. But in our household, we have a very simple rule, which is basically don't use any products that have anything concerning, whether they're personal products or cleaning products. We do not use any harsh soaps in a dishwasher. We don't use standard soaps for the clothing. We use only bioenzymes for everything at this point. Sometimes we would use some occasionally we'll use even bleach. But the molecules like bleach, for example, even if they're in your own, goes on your clothing, they're going to be completely washed off. So what you're more concerned about are the molecules that are not easily soluble in water, and then the residue can end up being on your body. That's what you don't want. And so those are more heavier molecules. All right. So, okay, let's. All right. Let's see if there's any other routine questions. I don't see any other questions. Anybody else? Do you have any other questions? Who wants to have a little bit of time, 5-10 minutes we can do this more as a meditation practice, so that you sit down and you think about what Chris did and sort of kind of, because he didn't give us time he kept talking, so he didn't give us actual time. So what I was thinking, if there is no more questions, let's just, I'm going to do a little centering practice for a couple of minutes, for maybe 5 minutes. And then for the rest of the time, let's just do a little bit of a journaling. I think that's probably time best spent. That's how I feel it. Is that anybody? But I want to give people last opportunity to ask questions. Sheila.
One of the things I wanted to comment with the speaker, but he had to leave. These letters seem wonderful. If you're still alive and you're trying to talk about some heavy stuff with somebody who, you know, open up some worms and that kind of thing, that's something you may want to rethink, because, you know, while you're still alive and you're calling out people and saying some things, or making some confessions that may hurt people or whatever, may be something to reconsider until after you've passed. And then that, you know, you don't have to worry about it being an issue while you're still alive with the other person. So some of the technicalities of this should be thought very carefully before you actually sit down with somebody or send something in the mail or whatever.
Right. Thank you. Yeah. Yeah, but I think it is meant not to wait until you're passing. I think it's really you know, for living. That's how I see it. You know, I you know, for me, it's a way of pausing and concentrating on what's been achieved and really leaving legacy, energetic legacy, to those close to us, you know. And it doesn't necessarily, we have to wait for until we're in the last years of life. I mean, I think it's a continuously evolving process. You know, I think what may be critically important for me today may not be so in 10 years. So I think it's a more of a invitation to think about this more than anything, to really put time and effort into a thought process here. So, all right, let's do last question, since it's 2:45, and I think that the last 15 minutes we'll do that. Yeah, so well, that's a key question, Randy, but that's the whole problem. You know, if you look around yourself, you will find that the plastics is sneaking in into everything. You guys aware that about half of all the tea bags are now contain plastic, and you should never use them? That's so the most concerning plastics coming from sources you may not be completely aware at all. They're coming in from sources of where you're heating a food with the presence of a plastic. So the things that you should never do, you should never use tea bags that have plastic, and you actually have to be careful. A lot of paper bags that look like paper bags are actually plastic containing when you're making tea from bag. It's best never to use tea bags, period. It's very difficult to find out which tea bags have plastics and which don't. All right, Al is asking a question, which of course is the key question, but of course, you know, nobody cares about this. So that's one. The second is there are some sources of a lot of cans contain plastics in the lining of a can, and often there's no way of knowing that. You're just not going to be able to find out. Even if you open the can and it looks like there's a metal inside, you don't know. Often it's a microplastic covering the metal. So there's that. Of course, if you're still microwaving in a plastic, you got to stop that. That's really shouldn't be happening at all. You should only microwave glass or ceramic, or, like, you know, your regular dishes. You know, something that's completely non-toxic. You know, but even things like, people don't realize, for example, if they are drinking something hot and they're using a plastic straw. Okay, well, that's self-explanatory, right? So plastics at the cold temperatures, like let's say you're buying an ice cream in a plastic wrap, I probably wouldn't worry much about that. I would be really worried about any plastics. And by the way, it doesn't matter. It has nothing to do with BPA. There's a lot of confusion. People presume that there's only some plastics that are toxic. That's not what we're talking about. Microplastic is the breaking pieces of a regular plastic that end up going through your system, getting absorbed in a small amounts, and ending up in all kinds of organs. So that's the problem. Okay, let's stop with the microplastics and such, and let's center. So, all right. And by the way, as usual, if you need to stay a little bit longer, if you have something personal for me, just stay after we're done at around 3 o'clock. So close your eyes. If you're laying down, that's fine. If you're sitting up, straighten your back. Feel that your back is aligned. Feel the feet on the floor. Begin putting attention on your breath. Inhaling through the nose, exhaling through the nose. Sensing how the air passes through our system, through the respiratory system. Check in with your face. Maybe there's areas of tension you want to release. Okay. So we're going to take a few slow paced and deep breaths here. So if you wish, if you want to do this, now if you want to just to continue staying in the meditative state, by all means, keep your eyes closed and continue with a slow-paced breathing. But if you would like to work on the ethical will, you can type or you can grab a piece of paper, and then we're going to spend a few minutes on each of the questions, concentrating on thinking about it, jogging some of the thoughts or typing them. So let's start with the first question, which is the guiding principle of our lives. What is the moral compass that we want to pass on to our kids, to our loved ones? So that's a first consideration. Don't overthink this. It should be something that just comes to you as you put your thought onto it, and then just record what's coming. If you're thinking too much about this, it's fine. You don't have to record anything. Just let the thoughts roam around, if you will, and pay attention to what you're feeling, what you're sensing. We're going to do a total of just 3 questions. I don't want to, Chris talked about a lot of different things, but I think I want us to just center on a few things. I don't think we're going to have time, and I don't think it's critical to cover some parts. For example, expressing love and gratitude. I think we all have people in our lives, we can do it too. I just want us to spend more time on things that do require some processing. So let's do the next one, is articulate your aspirations for your loved ones, and what dreams do you hold for them personally and for their journeys as a family or as individuals. And again, if you feel drawn to it, make some notes. And if you have more than one person you're thinking about, you may simply need more time to do this part. And if you're not writing anything, if you're just continuously meditating, just tune to anybody who's really important to you. And think specifically about what would you like this person to what would you like that person to feel about you? What would you like this person to remember about you? And again, this is not as if you're not going to see them tomorrow, right? So understand that this is just what today is in the moment, how you may be feeling. It just gives us a little bit of time to contemplate the questions themselves more than anything else. And let's do the third question, which has more to do with our spirituality. So let's reflect on our spiritual beliefs, how they're shaping our lives. And think of a legacy of your spirituality or your spiritual awareness that you want to leave for your loved ones. And it could be in the form of thoughts, it could be in a form of particular system of beliefs, or it could just be something very vague and non-specific that just describes how you feel about this topic. So whatever resonates with you. This is very open-ended. And if you're just meditating, I invite you to simply connect to your personal source of spirituality. Maybe it's nature, maybe it's awareness of something greater, whatever it is for you. Just stay in the presence of it and deepen the connection. We're going to take a couple more minutes just to meditate here. That also gives you time if there's anything else you need to write down or type or think through, then you still have a couple of minutes to contemplate. And let's just take a couple more breaths and gradually finish up. And if you need to take more time, by all means, you can stay here. You can just leave. We are at the hour, so we are finished for today. If you have anything specific for me, if you're my patient, if you have something medical, stay here. I'll stay here as usual for a couple more minutes, but I'm gonna go ahead and stop recording. Actually, before I do that, Janet, what do we have next week?
We have the Sung Symposium.